The floor is yours.
Thank you. So, quick intros. My name is Butler. I'm from the University of Cape Town, and my colleague is with me, Nadine Hamman, also from the University of Cape Town. And both of us are senior learning designers and project coordinators. So we are working on the support side of the teaching and learning sphere. And we are very happy to talk about the Enable framework today. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. So quick look at what we'll do. We will look at the origin of Enable and then what it is. And then we'll talk a little bit about the next steps for it and then have a quick little discussion at the end. So Enable came from a project which we called Redesigning Blended Courses. So if you go into our apologies, sorry. Okay, no, that's fine. Some of our resources refer to RBC, which is our Redesigning Blended Courses project, although that's ended. That ended at the end of last year. It ran from 2021 to 2023. It was funded by the South African Department of Higher Education and Training, DHET, what we call. And then another very important point of this whole framework is that all of the materials that we created have been released as open educational resources for use under Creative Commons attribution. So when you come across any of our Enable framework documents, you're very welcome to use it, reuse it for your scenario, your circumstances, and that is exactly what we want. What we want forward. So I want from on this slide with the circular arrows showing how things happened, I mainly wanted to point out how Enable came out of the bigger project. So it started by looking at it arose out of UCT's vision to prioritize inclusive design and promote digitally enabled education. And that's something that's been coming up stronger and stronger at UCT, inclusive design and digital enabled education. And this Enable framework speaks very closely to that. So it's first and foremost a UCT for UCT staff. It's for teaching staff, for teaching assistants, tutors, and educational technology assistants working at UCT. So that was our target group. And the main goal is to enhance student learning and success. So whatever we hope lecturers apply from the Enable framework is for student learning and success to improve. The main project target group, all students taking blended courses, and we understand blended courses as actually most courses being offered at UCT, where there are face-to-face lectures, classes, tutorials, and as well as online aspects, making them blended courses. Then the outcome of the project we wanted for is enhanced support for teaching staff to develop and design blended courses with UDL principles. And that is one of our underpinnings, UDL principles of the Enable framework. And then from this outcome, the output was or is the Enable framework. Okay, so that is to give everyone a bit of an idea of how it came about. And then looking at the process, so it was a very intensive and inclusive collaborative process. We worked with the learning design team at UCT. We worked with disability studies colleagues at UCT as well. We had a reading group over the space of more than a year where we met on a regular basis to review literature about South African higher education, about social justice, about UDL. So it brought together all of the major themes and topics we wanted to include in the Enable framework. we documented existing courses that featured in inclusion, because often these things happen already in classes at UCT or at other universities. And then we re-envisioned all of the literature, the documented cases as a set of resources. Um, and some of the aspects of what came out of the literature, we applied it to a few courses and conducted research based on that. We tested the framework against existing courses and we got feedback from the lecturers. And then we also adjusted it according to some reviews. And lastly, a rigorous peer review happened by UDL experts as well as learning design experts. And all of this to say that it's still ongoing. The framework is still being improved, it's still being worked on, but it came from a background of quite intense work already. Moving on. So yes, these are the things that underpin our framework. Very high on the list is UDL, then blended learning and the modes, the affordances, everything that blended learning can do in teaching and learning environment also come to the foreground in the framework. Teaching and learning theories are incorporated. We use TEDI, which is a instructional design model, similar to ADDIE, but adapted by UCT colleagues. Accessibility is also a very big theme in our framework, and then equity in education. So we really want equitable learning design to come to the forefront when applying Enable. Equity in education, as I just said, very, very big focus. We want to focus on equal access and outcomes for all students. It involves marginalized groups in the learning process, so bring in groups who were previously marginalized into a co-creation of their learning. And then it aims to provide equal access to the curriculum, not uniform treatment. So it opens up access to the curriculum in a way that we hope brings individuals in from where they're at. And then in terms of blended learning, so for strategies there, we are utilizing diverse student experiences and resources in teaching and providing varied resources reflecting cultural and linguistic diversity. At UCT, we have a wide variety of languages that students come with and bring in, and we do want to incorporate all of that in their learning experiences. So for Enable and UDL, the link there is that it's bringing into conversation in course design and curriculum design the principles of UDL in for in-person blended and online learning in higher education. So Enable is quite you will see when we show you what it looks like and how the framework is put together, you will see that UDL features very, very clearly and very strongly in there. I'm sure you are all very familiar with UDL. So I'm not going to go into the three principles. But yeah, I want to emphasize that UDL, social justice, blended learning, these were the foundational theories and concepts that we worked with as we developed and expanded on the Enable framework. Right, and this is where I hand over to my colleague Nadine, talking to you about what Enable is exactly. Thank you, Nadine. Do you want to share your screen?
Yes, please. Thanks, Lauren.
Okay, I'll stop on my side.
And then I want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It seems like we have quite a dispersed audience from wherever you are. Thank you for allowing us to be sharing what we have done and what we are still busy with this Enable project. So I am going to share my screen and what the Enable framework Just waiting for it to share. Okay, can you see my screen where it says Designing for Blended Learning? Yes, thanks. I see Lauren is nodding. Okay, so what I'm currently sharing with you, and Lauren will also place the link for you in the chat for those of you that want to navigate, as this framework is already live on the SILT website, which is our department. Before I show you exactly what this framework looks like on the website, I just want to say that we also had it was a very interesting process for us, because we, as learning designers in the Center for Innovation, Learning and Teaching, come from a pragmatic, we have a quite pragmatic approach, because we are assisting the lecturers at UCT with their course designs, with their redesigns, and currently also the platform migration that we have. But then we also have a cluster in our department, that's the academic staff development cluster. And we had the privilege to work with an emeritus professor, Cheryl Hodgkinson-Williams, that brought a very, very strong learning design theory approach to the framework. So we have tried to interrogate this from different angles. And one of the things that we started with is that we realized in the first paper that we wrote up that it's got a very strong learning design focus. And we realized that the gap at the Teaching and Learning Conference was that we need teaching staff to understand this. And that is where we shifted the focus, as Lauren said earlier, to the more proximate group in terms of the teaching staff, the tutors, academic teaching assistants, etc. Okay, so on the screen, you will see we have developed an infographic for the Enable framework. We have tried, and I hope that you will see the SMILE diagram, as we refer to it, commonly refer to it. And the Enable framework has got 6, which later evolved to 7 elements. And at the back end, you will also see elements of the TEDdy, or I want to say indirectly, of the ADDIE learning design model, if you really interrogate this closely. And each of these elements on the back end, we have created a Google folder structure in terms for us to be able to update it as, I want to say, rigorously as possible, allowing for people to provide comments to us. What it was some of the decisions we had to make, like how do we get feedback on this? If you scroll down on the page, okay, so looking at the elements from the left side, the first element's deliberative course planning, where we really work with how do you think about your curriculum, who's the students that actually come to your course, how do you accommodate the different students. Then the next steps, more student-centered learning, then responsive teaching and online engagement because of the blended learning focus, but you can also use Enable in an online-only environment as well. It's very much applicable. You can see it moves into the next step, flexible assessment and feedback. We loop those together because we feel that feedback is an integral part of any assessment, and not just having the assessment, getting the marks out, but how do we improve? What is the difference that the assessment actually makes to the student? The last one, expansive evaluation and reflection, if you want to look at it in a chronological order, but then also accessible course materials and technology. We place centered because there are elements of all of those or traces of materials and technologies in all the elements. And then also the 7th element that we added in working with academics was communication. And we added that actually as an additional element. You will see presented in the green on the screen that says communication. And then we just added icons for each of these to enhance the visuals. What was also important for us with this framework is that academics should be able to enter this process at any stage, depending on where they're at in their teaching cycle. So if you want to get a resource on assessment and feedback, you can jump in there. You do not have to go through the framework. And what we really aim to do is to provide languaging about some of the practices that we find that the teaching staff do intuitively in the classroom, whether online or in a blended setting. And we wanted them to show them what are some of the literature behind what it is that they are doing, giving them the language to say like, oh, this is what it's actually called. I didn't know that, I was creating effective objectives, for example. So that was another important thing. So if you scroll down on the Enable website page, you will see that it links to all the elements. I'm quickly going to click into the first element. So it's the Enable framework overview. I'm going to go into deliberative course planning quickly. You will see here now we enter the Google structure, and I will increase this just for visibility. So this is the first element on the Enable framework, as I said previously, with the curriculum planning. And how we try to do this, if I scroll down, you can see there are, so we try to keep the document succinct and short so that people can almost do it like a hit and run. I see a card is up. I suppose the time's almost out, right?
2 minutes left, Nadine.
2 minutes. So
Yeah.
we linked the CAST guidelines, and that's one of the next steps that we need to do is to add the updated checkpoints as soon as those are available with the CAST guidelines. But you can click into each of these, and I'm just quickly going to scroll down so that you can see it's a short document. We give a suggested citation. As Lauren said, all of these are CC BY. And then what I just want to do is to click into each of, or just one of these. So I'm clicking into student profile. And you will see here, it just gives people an idea of what does a student profile look like when you're busy with curriculum planning or at the start of your course. What are some of the considerations? Is it a new course? Is it an existing course? And you can see even there are additional links that you can click. So we wanted to provide like practical teaching tools and templates. So if I click just on the survey, you will see on the online survey, there's another clickable link. It's just a various layer of Enable. And here what we have is a student profile online survey, which you can obviously adapt for in-class settings. You can just create a form that people can fill in, but we provide different questions. We even provide to you the type of question that you should select. You can use either WooClap, Padlet, or in your closed environment like Google Forms or MS Forms at your university. And then it's like, do you want to ask them maybe about their motivation, personal, professional, their expectations, their level, current knowledge, experience, etc. I'm quickly just jumping back into the slides.
Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you.
Sorry
Perfect.
to interrupt. Thank you, Lauren and Nadine, for sharing your Enable framework and the resources that goes with it. So we still have 3 minutes on the clock. So any questions from the online community or on the room?